Why is the MicroKORG so popular? Affordability, yes. Portability, yes. Stability, yes. Ease of use, not so sure. Released on the 19th July 2002, the MicroKORG has been the go-to synthesizer for bedroom producers and small bands. LCD Sound Systems' Losing My Age has MicroKORG in it. Girls by The Prodigy, Heads Will Roll by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and famously, Smile Like You Mean It by The Killers uses the preset A28 directly. Based on the MS-2000, this little box was packed with features and presets that made it perfect for someone looking to add some new sounds into their arsenal. This is my MicroKORG S, and you've been listening to it just now. I didn't have a MicroKORG as a teenager learning music, but I bought this one off a Facebook Marketplace, and surprisingly it came with the original vocoder mic and a bag. Yes, this is a condenser microphone. Apart from the obvious color difference, the S model came with built-in stereo speakers with a tiny subwoofer, an extra preset bank, and one more blank preset bank for the user. Almost KORG knew we love the built-in presets so much, allowing us to keep them plus add some of our own. Creating those presets, however, was easier said than done. For inexperienced users, aka KORG's target market, the Matrix wasn't the easiest thing to use or to learn synthesis on. This in no way is the easiest synthesizer to learn, but having the KORG MIDI editor and a MIDI to USB cable makes it a lot easier to learn and program. Luckily, I had some experience using software synthesizers before laying my hands on this. KORG has released a version 2 of this beloved synthesizer. But my question now is, if you were to buy one of these today, and given the availability and popularity, could you still use it to make music today? And would that music hold up to everything that's being released today? So I'm going to attempt to do something that has been done many times before. To make a song using MicroKORG as the only synthesizer and then release it. The goal is to make a song, not to showcase this MicroKORG. The requirements are, it must sound modern, can't be acid-based music, must be mixed and mastered properly for today's standard, I must try to use the presets as much as possible, or at least use the presets as a starting point. I'm going to try and make a modern pop song with heavy bass lines and synth-based sounds. So let's jump into Ableton and have some fun. Alright, so now we're in Ableton, and the way it worked is MIDI went through Ableton into the Focusrite Scarlett, and from there a MIDI to MIDI cable going straight into the MicroKORG, and the audio returned from MicroKORG into my Focusrite Scarlett back into Ableton. The first group of sounds we have are the pads, labeled chord in a group. I'm going to turn off all the effects. So that's the effects turned off into the group itself. This is the first sound, which is patch B18 called filter strings. This is what it sounds like. Very 2005. The second sound we've got is B68 called octave strings. This one's got a bit more going on. This is with all the effects. This is the raw sound. With effects. Now here is the two brass sounds panned left and right. The first one is A68 with a little bit of filter envelope, and the patch is called simple strings. This is what it sounds like. Straight. with effects. This is the same sound, slightly altered on the right side. This is preset B66 called Poly Synth, and I've put a little bit of LFO in there before it was recorded. You can definitely hear the LFO. Nothing going on here, just the EQ. Very Timbaland, absolutely love it. The last sound for this group is the preset B68 called Octave Strings. This is just a plain stock sound. This is what it sounds like originally. With effects. With some flanger and kickstart, giving it a little bit of texture. The way this whole group is working is you've got the two actual strings, brass for a little bit of texture, a little bit more texture with polysynth, the LFO, and octave string patch just working as a pedal tone. This is what the whole group sounds like. And then with effects. A bit more tight and with a little bit of compression and side chaining, if I remember correctly. Yes, there's definitely some side chaining going on. The side chaining coming through Fab Filter, side chaining from the vocals. The next group of sound is the leads. Here's the MIDI file that actually went out of Ableton. This is the sound back, recorded. Without any effects. Let me turn off all the effects. You can definitely hear the MicroKORG in there very well. The second sound in the leads group is short synth bass, patch C27. Turn the effects back on for the first one. With effects. And what's without a little bit of acid. Very subtle panning left and right. Now for the next sound, this is what I started the song with. I cheated here a little bit. I'm not using the MicroKORG directly. I'm using the MicroKORG VST for this one because I had some automations going on for the cutoff. Here's the automation cutoff for the MicroKORG VST. And look, this is just the basic patch that starts off with. This is the initializing patch of A11 called Transient Arpeggio. I'm sure everyone knows this sound. Here's the cutoff working for this patch. Those are all the main sounds, and then we went off to create some bass. The first patch for the bass is called MG bass. I'm assuming that's an emulation of a Moog bass through MicroKORG. This was also a built-in patch called B52. This is what it sounds like. There's a lot of saturation going on. I had to make the patch for the second and the third bass, which is the Reese bass and a very low sub bass to accompany on top of the Reese bass. This is what the Reese bass sounds like. Oh, and this Reese bass sound went through a guitar chorus pedal. There's the sub bass. This is what the bass sounds like. And then there are normal MicroKORG sounds here. This is just the drum. Pretty basic. Top loops with some flanger. 808 cymbal. What's a 2000s pop music without 808 cymbal? White noise crash and reverse crash. Some sound effects. Some vocal chops. And the second vocal chop. These two are essentially the same vocal chops, just pitched up and down. So it sounds a bit like chord, a dyad chord, I guess. There's some clipping going on with all the mastering effects on my main output channel. These are the vocals.
Black nails, cold stare, love bites on my collarbone. Then I'm back, falling right into your trap. Bad, bad, bad. Little obsession, you bad, bad, bad.
And this is what the whole song sounds like. Enjoy.
Lipstick on your skin, marking everything that's mine. You